The Watcher of Westfield. Letters from a stranger who knew too much. They just bought their dream home, but someone was already watching, and he knew everything about them. The dream home with a secret 657 Boulevard, Westfield, New Jersey. A quiet, tree-lined street, white fences, well-trimmed hedges, the kind of place where people wave to their neighbors and kids ride bikes until dusk. For Derek and Maria Broaddus, it was everything they'd ever wanted. The house was big, 6 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, classic colonial. It was their dream home. They poured their savings into it. Derek had made it in the corporate world. Maria had grown up not far from here. This was supposed to be their forever home, where their 3 young kids would grow up safe, happy, and proud. But then, just days after closing the sale, before they even moved in, a letter arrived. No return address. Just thick, blocky handwriting on the envelope. To the new owner. Derek opened it casually. At first, it seemed odd, maybe a prank, but the words inside? 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now. I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. The letter was signed, The Watcher, and that was only the beginning. Who is the Watcher? The letter was unsettling, not just in tone, but in detail. Why are you here? I will find out. It referenced the Broaddus family by name, their 3 children, mentioned specifically, and the layout of the house. The letter's author knew it. I see you have already flooded 657 with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be. Tisk, 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 bad move. You don't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy. Derek Broaddus was rattled. He called the police immediately. The responding officer read the letter and was visibly disturbed. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't kids being stupid. Whoever wrote this had been watching the house, watching them. The letter mentioned the children in chilling terms. I have seen them. So far, I think there are 3 that I have counted. Are there more on the way? You have children. I have seen them. So far. But here's the most disturbing line. Will they sleep in the attic? Or will you all sleep on the 2nd floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better. Plan what? Police advised the Broadduses to keep quiet. Don't tell neighbors. Don't go public. They began investigating, checking with postal workers, examining local records, even looking into past owners. But in the meantime, another letter arrived. This one was angrier. You have changed it and made it so fancy. You are stealing its history. It cries for the past and what used to be in the time when I roamed its halls. The 1960s were a good time for 657 Boulevard, when I ran from room to room, imagining the life with the rich occupants there. The Broadduses had barely set foot inside, and someone was already claiming the house as their own. suspects, secrets, and the neighborhood that turned cold. With the second letter, fear turned to paranoia. Derek and Maria Broaddus began to suspect everyone. The neighbors, the mail carrier, even the previous owners, the Woods family, who had lived there for decades without incident. Derek started staying up late, turning off all the lights and watching the street from a darkened window. He installed security cameras, motion detectors, alarms, but the letters kept coming. You don't want to make 657 unhappy. The watcher claimed the house was his. Spiritually, historically, he spoke of the young blood, a phrase he used repeatedly to refer to the Broaddus children. Have they found what's in the walls yet? In time they will. Detectives began canvassing the neighborhood. Who had a view of the porch? Who could have seen the renovations? Who would have known about the layout of the second floor? Several neighbors became persons of interest. There was the Langford family, who lived right next door, an odd group, known around the block for being eccentric and reclusive. One of the sons, Michael Langford, was brought in for questioning. He denied everything, but the Broadduses remained convinced. The letters had to be coming from someone on that street, someone close. Then there were the neighbors across the way who never made eye contact. A family that seemed a little too interested in the kids, or the elderly widow who watched from her porch every morning, always watching. The police couldn't make an arrest. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no surveillance footage showing anything unusual. The letters had been processed through a distant post office. Whoever the watcher was, they were careful. A house that won't let go. By this point, the Broaddus family had spent hundreds of thousands on renovations, but they were too afraid to move in. And who could blame them? Their kids had been targeted in anonymous letters. The author claimed to be watching them, day and night. They didn't know who he was, or what he might do next. I pass by many times a day. 657 is my job, my life, my obsession. So they made a decision. They wouldn't move in. They couldn't. Instead, they tried to sell the house. But word had started to spread. Whispers in the neighborhood, rumors online. And then, someone leaked the story to the press. The reaction was instant. News vans parked on the street. Reporters knocked on doors. True crime blogs exploded with theories. Was it a neighbor with a grudge? A jilted would-be buyer? An elaborate hoax staged by the family for attention? Some even wondered, was the watcher real at all? The Broadduses denied it all. They were desperate, not devious. Eventually, they sued the previous owners, the Woods family, claiming they should have disclosed the existence of the watcher. But the Woods swore they'd only received one strange letter, days before moving out, and never anything threatening. The lawsuit went nowhere. Meanwhile, Derek and Maria rented out the house, but even the tenants began receiving watcher letters. You have changed the house and made it so fancy. It cries for the past. The house, it seemed, wasn't letting go. internet detectives, theories, and false trails. As the case gained national attention, the internet did what it always does. It became a hive of amateur sleuths, Reddit deep divers, and conspiracy theorists. Some believed it was an elaborate marketing stunt, a viral campaign for a horror movie. Others insisted the Broadduses had invented the story to get out of a bad real estate deal. Then came the more unhinged theories that the house was haunted and the watcher was a spirit, that the letters contained coded messages, a cipher waiting to be cracked, that the house had once been used for occult rituals and someone was trying to protect its legacy. But in reality, the most credible theory always came back to this: the watcher was someone nearby, someone with a deep, disturbing obsession. Detectives and online users cross-referenced the language in the letters. Phrases like young blood, the second coming, and it cries for the past. Were they clues to age, education level, religious background? FBI profilers suggested the writer was likely older, possibly male, and someone who had lived in the neighborhood for a long time. But despite handwriting analysis, surveillance efforts, and DNA testing from the envelopes, nothing stuck. One suspect, a local man with a dark history, was briefly considered. He'd written disturbing fiction that eerily mirrored some of the language in the letters. He was brought in, questioned, but there was no evidence, no confession, just more dead ends, more letters, and more fear. Welcome again to your new home at 657 Boulevard. The house is crying from all the pain. You have changed it and made it so fancy. You are stealing its history. It cries for the past and what used to be in the time when I roamed its halls. The 1960s were a good time. If it was a hoax, it was committed. If it was real, it was personal, and no one could stop it. The house sits empty. For years, 657 Boulevard stood like a monument to unease, perfectly manicured, impeccably renovated, and completely unlived in. Neighbors walked by, whispering. Some crossed the street when passing. Kids dared each other to go up and touch the mailbox. It became local folklore. The Broadduses, still paying the mortgage, eventually found renters, but even they received a letter from the watcher. You are despised by the house and the watcher. It is not safe for you. Real estate agents began to avoid showing the property. Potential buyers dropped out when they Googled the address. The stigma was stronger than any square footage. By now, Derek and Maria were emotionally exhausted. Their children were anxious, sleeping with the lights on. They had moved back into Maria's parents' house, just a few blocks away. They were still in the neighborhood, still near the house they had once loved, still near the watcher. A Netflix deal and the national obsession. In 2018, something strange happened. The house that nobody wanted suddenly sparked a bidding war. But not from home buyers, from Hollywood. Netflix outbid several major studios and purchased the rights to the story. They turned it into a limited series called The Watcher, dramatizing the events of 657 Boulevard for millions of streaming viewers. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. Twitter threads, TikToks dissecting the letter phrasing, YouTube breakdowns, Reddit theories, long-form essays. But for the Broden-Deuces, it wasn't entertainment, it was trauma. They hadn't asked for fame, they hadn't wanted attention. They just wanted answers and peace. Instead, their story became a cultural spectacle. People trespassed, took selfies, even sent them letters, mocking them, calling them liars. But they weren't actors in a Netflix series. They were a real family, still haunted by a stranger they had never seen, still checking the mailbox with dread, still jumping at footsteps, still wondering, was it someone we waved to? Someone we passed in the grocery store? Someone watching right now? The show brought new attention and new theories, but no resolution. One final letter. In 2019, nearly 5 years after the first letter arrived, the Broadduses finally sold 657 Boulevard. The price? $400,000 less than what they paid. They disclosed everything. They warned the new owners. But by that point, the Watcher had gone quiet. For a while, things seemed normal again. No more letters, no more sightings, no more fear, until one final message arrived, not to the new owners, but slipped anonymously into a neighborhood mailbox. You are despised by the house, and the Watcher won. No signature, no fingerprints, no trail. Just like that, the story ended the way it began, with a whisper, with a threat, with a question that would never be answered. The police closed the case unofficially. No new suspects, no arrests. The Watcher was never identified. Some say it was a neighbor with mental illness. Some say it was the Broadduses themselves, crafting a myth for attention. Others believe the Watcher still lives there, watching, waiting, writing. Maybe it was never about the family. Maybe it was never about the house. Maybe it was about being seen, or not seen at all. The legacy of the Watcher. In the world of true crime, we crave answers. We want motives, arrests, justice. But not every story ends that way. Some just linger. 657 Boulevard wasn't a murder scene. There was no body, no blood, no break-in. But what happened there was real, and it tore a family apart just as surely as any crime ever could. The Watcher case isn't just about a house. It's about what happens when your safe space is invaded, not by someone you see, but by someone who knows everything about you and remains invisible. It's about fear without a face, a threat without a timeline, a presence you can't escape because you never even see it coming. Welcome again to your home at 657 Boulevard. I have been in control. To this day, people still drive by the house, still peer through the hedges, still ask, who was the watcher? But maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe the better question is, what do we fear more? The stranger who knocks, or the one who already has the key? This is the American Mysteries Archives. Join us next time for another true story, hidden in plain sight.
Subscribe for more chilling mysteries. Thanks for being here. See you in the next time.